is the Swarovski Optik AX Visio 10x32 really worth for? Who should walk away? And does the price make sense for a regular weekend hiker who just wants to spot a deer or a distant mountain peak? That's the exact question I asked myself before I even lifted the box. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The first thing I felt was a familiar tug of doubt. A pair of binoculars that promises smart integration and rugged durability usually sits in a price bracket where a single misstep can leave you with a gadget that sits dusty in a backpack. I've spent a few evenings scrolling through forums, reading the handful of reviews that exist, and watching a few field videos where the AX Visio is actually being used. The overall rating is a modest 2.1 out of 5 from just over 50 buyers, which tells you that the community isn't shouting by now. That low score alone forced me to dig deeper into what the product does well and where it falls short before recommending it to anyone. When you step back and look at the binocular market, you see three main buckets: entry-level glass that gets the job done for occasional use, mid-range models that balance performance and price, and the premium tier where optics manufacturers throw in extra features to justify a steep price tag. The AX Visio lands squarely in that premium tier, not just because of its Swarovski heritage but because it tries to blend high magnification optics with a smartphone-linked experience. In real-world terms, that means you can point the binoculars at a flock of wintering ducks, tap a button, and have the integrated Merlin Bird ID app suggest likely species based on location and shape. For a dedicated birdwatcher who already carries a phone and values data on the fly, that can actually shave minutes off a field notebook. On the flip side, the same smart layer adds a small but noticeable lag when you toggle between the view and the app, and the battery life is limited to a few hours of continuous use, something you discover only after a full day out in the field. If you're the type of outdoor enthusiast who spends whole weekends trekking through varied terrain, needing a pair that can survive a tumble, a sudden downpour, or a day of constant handling, the AX Visio's rugged construction is a genuine strength. The housing is sealed against moisture and dust, and the 17.8mm eye relief lets you keep the lenses covered even with glasses on, which is a blessing on cold mornings when you're wearing goggles. The 10 magnification paired with a 32mm objective delivers a crisp, high-contrast image that lets you read the feather pattern on a sandpiper from a few hundred yards away. In practice, I tried it on a sunrise hike to a ridge overlooking a valley. The wide 6.4 field of view meant I could sweep the landscape without constantly re-aiming, and the clarity was enough to pick out individual pine needles on a distant slope, a level of detail you rarely get from a $500 pair. If you regularly hunt or need that extra definition for scouting terrain, that visual precision translates into real confidence. However, the same set of features can feel like overkill or even a drawback for the casual user. The weight hovers around 1.2 kilograms, which is noticeable after a few hours on a shoulder strap, especially if you're already carrying a pack, a camera, and other gear. The smart integration, while innovative, forces you to keep your phone within reach, meaning you either have to juggle two devices or accept that the app will be a distraction. More importantly, the low aggregate rating hints that many owners encountered issues that aren't obvious from the spec sheet. A few buyers reported that the focus knobs felt stiff after a week of regular use, and the promise of superior clarity didn't always match the reality of a slightly hazy image in low-light conditions, a common gripe with high-magnification optics when the exit pupil shrinks to 3.2mm. If you're looking for a pair to pop into a car for occasional wildlife spotting, or you just need something reliable for a weekend camping trip, a more modest 842 model from a different brand will likely give you comparable performance for a fraction of the cost and without